Welcome to an incredible journey with internationally renowned lawyer of attraction, Paula Casey. Applying the skills gained over 40 years of practicing law, Paula uses facts, logic, and science to prove the validity of the law of attraction. Join Paula each week as she explores unique concepts, allowing you to rediscover the wisdom of the ancient masters, all while weaving in the science that proves magic really does happen. If you yearn for a life change or want to rediscover your passion, then share the path with Paula and begin to love your journey every step of the way.
Hello, my name is Paula Casey, and welcome to the Law of Attraction Radio Network. I will be your host for the next hour for my program, The Law of Attraction. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. Just a very quick overview about myself. I've been a divorce attorney for the last 40 years. I decided I wanted to use my power for good instead of evil, and I decided that I want to teach the natural laws of the universe full time, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. As I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you about today, I was driving home from spending some time with my grandkids in Kansas City. It's about a 2.5-hour drive, and they're 3- and 6-year-old boys. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you, 3 things kind of popped into my head at the same time. The first one was the concept of spending time. You know, spending time is a term that we use an awful lot of times, but time is the only thing that we cannot replenish. It's the only commodity that once it's over with, it's over with. And I think we waste it way too much. I think we don't realize the importance of actually deciding what we want to spend our time on. You know, we can always get more money, we can always get more things, we can even get more friends, but time is that one commodity that once it is gone, we can never get it again. The second thing I thought of was my grandbabies and how they live in the moment. They are so intense. Everything is over the top to them. You know, they're so aware of everything. I go to pick them up at daycare, and they see me from across the room, and they come running and jump in my arms and hug me, you know, like they haven't seen me forever. And I was up there 2 weeks ago. I just love it. They're just so aware of what's going on. We went to Hibachi Grill. It was my daughter's birthday. And, you know, I mean, that is paradise for 2 little boys. I mean, they are throwing knives, or not the 2 little boys, the actual chef, you know, and they're putting things on fire, and they're juggling eggs, and they're throwing food at you. I mean, it's a perfect place for little boys. And their eyes were big. They were so aware. They were just in awe. I just love watching them be in the moment. You can actually see them think. Which led me to my next thought is how unaware and how on autopilot we adults are. You know, we literally are on autopilot 95% of our lives. Our subconscious mind takes over. And, you know, it's non-thinking. It's non-conscious thought. We just do things routine. We do things rote. We just do things over and over again. And while I was thinking these thoughts, of course, I was on autopilot. I wasn't paying any attention to driving. I was doing what we all do, you know, where you're thinking about other things besides the present moment. And as I did, the song by John Denver, Sweet Surrender, came on. I will tell you, I used to hate the word surrender, but I listened to the words because I wanted to stay in the now, you know, because that was kind of my theme when I was driving home. And I ran them off when I got home, and I want to read some of these words to you because I think they're going to be very appropriate for what we're going to be talking about today. Looking for something that I can believe in. Looking for something that I'd like to do with my life. There's nothing behind me and nothing that ties me to something that might have been true yesterday. Tomorrow is open, and right now it seems to be more than enough to be just here today. And I don't know what the future is holding in store. I don't know where I'm going. I'm not sure where I've been. There's a spirit that guides me. I want you to remember that when we're talking later. A light that shines for me. My life is worth living. I don't need to see the end. Sweet, sweet surrender. Live without care. Like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air. And those words really just hit me like a ton of bricks, because I realized that the birds and the fish are not surrendering to anything. They're just going with the flow of nature. So I'll tell you why I used to hate the word surrender, because, it reminded me of being weak, of quitting, of failing, of, submitting to somebody else. And with my personality type and in my line of business, my chosen profession, I couldn't surrender. But if you've been following me at all and you realize what kind of debilitating anxiety attacks I had, and, depression and hating my chosen profession, well, you kind of see that I could never surrender. I never quit. I always wanted to win. I always went into court wanting to win. It is when that I figured out that the thing I was fighting was the thing that I was seeking. So let me kind of explain that a little bit more. I was fighting to always be in control. I was fighting things outside of me. So, I never liked churches because they told you what to do, or institutions, businesses, corporations. I had been self-employed since 1981, because they're not the boss of me. They're not going to tell me what to do. And, I just didn't play well with others. And something changed when I took a course. It was a coaching course by Michelle Jeffries, a very dear friend of mine. It's a Debbie Ford course based on the dark side of the light catchers. It was like an hour a night for 10 weeks. It was supposed to last like an hour a night. So she'd ask you different questions and you'd answer them, and she'd kind of explain some things about that. I loved it. Well, one night, it was close to the end of the 10 weeks. She said, okay, I want you to tell me one thing that happened in your childhood that was a memory that stands out, you think that kind of affected your life. And I said, well, okay. When I was about 12, my dad lost his business. And he went from owning a car dealership in our small town. He was president of Rotary. He was a deacon at the church, to pretty much being, penniless. And I remember him spending, I thought it was months in the back bedroom, in a darkened bedroom. I mean, I don't know how long it was, but it was quite a long time during that time, and not coming out and not being able to function. And he was extremely depressed. He was a broken man. Well, my stay-at-home mom went back to work as a secretary, and we got along pretty well. And it was an adjustment, but pretty soon my dad got a second shift at a factory about 30 miles away, and it was a very humbling experience for him. And now I really appreciate what he did for us, but we kind of started getting back to normal. And one night we were out going to dinner. As we walked into the restaurant, my mom literally just fell flat on her face. She didn't try to catch herself. I mean, it was just flat on her face. Well, she goes to the hospital, and after weeks of testing, they tell us she has multiple sclerosis. And she was in the hospital for months and pretty much couldn't move at all. Well, in my mind, what happened was I took total control. 12 years old, I've got an older sister, got a younger sister. In my mind, I became the parent. I took care of them, I cooked, I cleaned, I did everything, and I was the parent. So from that point on, I decided I don't want to be vulnerable. I want to be in control of everything. And that's kind of why I have this, very strong personality, that I want to be in control of everything, because I never wanted to feel that vulnerable again. So I get done with my story. Michelle says, okay, can you tell me to it again? And I said, well, sure. And I kind of repeated it verbatim to her again. Once again, she said, can you tell me it from a different perspective? And I said, well, no, because that's how it went down, and pretty much tell her the same exact story. She asked me this question 11 times over 3 hours, and I'm telling her the story over and over again. Remember, it's only supposed to last an hour. And finally she says, Paula, where did you get the food to cook? I said, oh, well, my dad went to the grocery store. Well, where did you get the money? Well, my dad worked and he got the money, and he went to the store and got the food. Well, when did you have the time and the information to be able to cook all these meals? And I said, well, come to think about it, every neighbor in the neighborhood would take a lunch time, because you'd have to come home from school for lunch. And we would go to different neighbors every day for lunch. And then she said, well, what about dinner? And I said, well, come to think about it, my parents' friends would bring a casserole over every night. When I started thinking about these memories flooded back. My grandparents were in town. They were always there to help. My friends' parents would always take us places, and all of a sudden, all the people that were helping came out of my memories. And Michelle says, so now what is your perspective of what happened? And I whispered, the universe had my back. I had not realized how many other things had been in play that were helping out during this time. My little mind was, I feel vulnerable, I want to be in control, and that was my perspective. That was the mud that I put on me to protect myself, just like that golden Buddha, when they put the mud on the golden Buddha to protect him from, the invading army. That was this paradigm that I built up. Well, that has made all the difference when I realized that it wasn't me, not that I wasn't strong and not that I didn't learn things, but there were a lot of other things that were happening that was helping take care of me, and that the universe had my back. So what we normally do is we have our ego, our small I, our physical bodies that we think has to control the conditions around us. And when I realized that there's something bigger, it's in me and through me. I didn't have to be arguing with anybody outside. Nobody outside was going to be telling me what to do. It's when you connect to your higher self, to that big I, to that big me, to the soul, your higher self, and the power that comes to and through that, because it's attached to divinity. That's where our real control comes from, and it's from inside of us. We don't have to fight with anybody outside. When I think of the time when I was always fighting with everybody, and not that I don't try to be in control sometimes, this visualization comes to my mind of, a big kid being on a playground, and he's got his hand out, and he's got his hand on this little boy's head, so the little boy is like arm's length from him, and the little boy's fists are just flying. He's trying to beat this kid up, That's what you're doing when you're physically trying to be in control of your environment instead of attaching to that higher self. So after I went through that process, surrender took on a whole different meaning to me. So it meant that when you stay in the present moment and you quiet your mind and you attach to this higher self, that's where the power comes through. So now surrender means to me to relax, to let go, to trust that the universe is going to take you where you need to go. I decided I was going to surrender to the current of life, to the flow of life. Now, it takes courage to surrender, and it takes courage to believe, and it takes courage to trust. And you're going to have to do it in increments, because it's going to be real hard to just jump off a cliff here. And I don't expect you to, surrender to everybody and quit your job tomorrow. But you have to have faith a little bit at a time. You're going to, have faith that's going to have something different's going to happen. You're going to believe it, and you're going to see that happens. And you're a little farther down the road, and you're a little higher up at the mountain, so you have a different perspective, and you see a little bit more. And you're going to do these in increments. You're going to do these a little bit at a time. When you let your little ego in control, what happens is you're not listening to the universe. You're not letting the universe do what it's supposed to be doing. You're resisting. You're like the little guy in the playground. You're just, spinning your fists. I was meditating today. As you all know, I love to meditate on my Eckhart Chopra hour, because I love Oprah and Deepak's meditations. And I just picked one out today. There was no subtitle. It didn't say anything on it. I just hit it and picked it. And guess what it was on? Surrender. Okay, so the universe was telling me this is what I was supposed to be talking about. And one of the examples that Deepak used, because Deepak and I are very close, I can call him vice versa. He was talking about, you want to fly a kite, and you got this kite, and you know that the wind has to come and take the kite, and the wind will be the one that gives the kite, the height, and it's the fun of flying. But you won't let go of the string. So the universe, if we let go of the string, the universe is going to come in and going to fill our kite and take us to these high levels. But if we don't ever let go of the string because we want to be in control, that's when we don't go anywhere. We just are on that hamster wheel every day. The Buddha said, the secret for both mind and body is not to mourn for the past or worry about the future or anticipate trouble, but to live in the present moment wisely and earnestly. And that is the way that we're going to be able to attach to our higher self and allow the universe to come in and fly our kites. It also said this morning in the meditation that surrender is the freedom to be. It's to trust in source energy. And I like this part, that uncertainty is the only certain thing we have in this world, that there are things that are uncertain. What happens when you're a control freak like me is you want to make sure everything's certain. I want this to happen, and I want to make sure certain that you do this, and I want to make certain this happens. Well, uncertainty is the source of our greatest joy, because if we know what's going to happen, then we're the ones in charge. If there's an uncertainty and a trust that the universe is going to pick up that kite and sail it amazingly, that's when the joy happens. We need to set an intention, take inspired action, release an outcome. And what that means is I want you to keep in your mind your passion, that thing that is supreme, but release a specific outcome of how it has to happen. And allow the universe to come in and show you the next step. And then take action with joy. The consciousness that knows how to fulfill our every need is what we want to attach to. So now surrender is sweet to me because I realize that that is where my actual power comes from. And normally what we do is we don't stay in the now, and we don't open ourselves up to anything the universe shows us. What we do is our minds are going 100 miles an hour and we start worrying, right? We worry about things. We worry about things that aren't happening right now. We worry about the past. We worry about the future. We use our imagination in very destructive ways. We can use it in very productive ways, but normally we imagine really bad things. I used to go on what I called my wonder walk. We lived in a neighborhood and it was gorgeous and had walking paths and lakes and it had a waterfall and great big huge trees. And I would tell my husband, I'm going to go on my wonder walk. I'll be back in about 45 minutes. And I was just going to be in the now and appreciate nature before I had to go to court and just enjoy everything and get in a good vibration. And I am not half a block down the street when I go, okay, what do I have in court today? Okay, I have the Jones case. So what am I going to argue for the Jones case? And in my head, I start arguing what I'm going to say to the court. And then I say, okay, what's the other side going to argue, just so I know how to respond? And I play the other side's argument in my mind. And then I say, well, that pisses me off. And then I come back with a rebuttal. And I'm arguing the case on this wonder walk. Isn't that wonderful? You know, and then I worry about, Mr. Jones owes me money and I need to get my accounts receivable in. I don't have enough money to pay overhead this month. I worry about my kids. I worry about politics. I worry about if we had enough food for the apocalypse. By the time I get home, I'm a nervous wreck. Okay, that's what I mean by worrying. I could have stayed in the now and appreciated what was going on. But I just let that monkey mind, we're going to talk about that more in a minute, it just went crazy, and it just comes up with all these things that shouldn't happen. And I addressed that in my book, and my book is The Law of Attraction. It's available on Amazon. I'm going to read a little bit to you from my book. It's called Worrier or Warrior. Which one are you? Your answer to that question makes such a huge difference in finding your abundant life. A worrier is someone who constantly frets about the past and fears the future. A worrier is so enmeshed in thinking thoughts of other times or problems or grocery lists that he or she completely misses out on the present moment. A worrier trades the magically mundane of the present moment, like sunlight filtering through the blinds or children giggling, for phantom problems that exist only in his or her mind. Unless it is happening right now, it can't be acted upon or affected. If it isn't something we can't defeat or change right this moment, it only steals our time and our energy. Now warriors, and I'm using air quotation marks for now warriors are, on the other hand, are constantly aware of the present moment. Their very survival depends on it. They need to know where they are at all times, what is in their immediate environment, what is available as a tool, and what action needs to be taken to achieve the results. They can respond to any situation that arises because they are focused on what is happening right then. They are not burdened by past regrets or fears of tomorrow. They will address tomorrow when it comes. They are doing whatever they can in the present moment, knowing that is the only time that they can weave it into a future that they desire. But they can only act in the now to be able to do that. Being in the now is one of the most important habits that you can cultivate. One of the books that I read when I was going through all my anxiety attacks was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and I think it's one of the books that brought me back to my sanity. And every paragraph is like you could write a thesis on every paragraph. I mean, I was blown away at all the concepts. But one of the things Eckhart Tolle says is, you can always cope with the now, but you can never cope with the future, nor do you have to. He goes on to say, you never cope with the future because it must become the present before you can react to it in any way whatsoever. We need to learn to embrace, and think of that word, embrace the now and become a now warrior. I had an epiphany when I was teaching this class. I have a class called Your Outrageous Life. I taught it in person the beginning of this year, and now, yay, it just came out on digital, and it's on my website, The Law of Attraction. But my epiphany was, and if you've listened to this before, you know I hate the word discipline. And my epiphany was when I was teaching this class that the only discipline that you really need is to stay in the now. And if you're in the now, and if you can get your vibration up to joy, or at least think of a better feeling thought, and you marry the now with the joy, that's what's going to make your life take off. That's the only discipline you need, is to be able to think a better feeling thought and to stay in the now. So we're going to embrace the now, but once we do that, we're going to enlarge the space of the now, because we want to pry this open and spend as much time in this area as we possibly can. And here's some ideas to enlarge the space in the now. You can wear a bracelet that says now. There's some cool mantra bracelets on Amazon, and you can get one that says now, so every time you look at it, you want to stay in the now. You can get Post-it notes and put Post-it notes, on your mirror, in your car, on your computer, on your refrigerator, put it on your ceiling. You can write the word now on the palm of your hand, and every time you look at it, that reminds you to stay in the present moment. I also have a great 7-day free challenge on my website. It's called The Magic Intention. If you get on there and give me your email, I'll send it to you, and it gives you some great ideas on how to stay in the now. Another way is to set your smartphones that I know you have with you at all times to go off at certain intervals. And when it goes off, you're going to stay in the now. So whenever you see these anchors about trying to stay in the present moment, an idea to do is to take a big deep breath in and a breath out, and pay attention to what's going on. Use your 5 senses. There is a relaxation, and there is a letting go when you just stay in the present moment. And you use your visual senses. What do you see? Do you see clouds? Do you see people? Are they smiling? Can you smile at them? Use your hearing. Do you hear city noises? Do you hear the wind? Talk to somebody, say something. Use your physical senses. Feel the hardwood or feel the cotton. Just anything to stay in the present moment, because it gives you this relief. So we've embraced it, we've enlarged it, and now I want you to engage in it. And this is the time, the only time that you can do anything in your life. And if we waste it, if we spend this time and we don't do it judiciously, we end up not being where we want to be with our lives. The present moment is the only time we can make decisions, and making decisions are huge. Once you make a decision, then your subconscious mind is going to start looking for ways for that decision to come true. The universe comes swooping in and gives you some amazing ideas, but you first have to make a decision. And the only time you can make a decision is in the now. You need to be engaged in the now. When you're engaged in the now, it's magical. And it's destructive when it's ignored. If you are not in the now, if you will go along with the masses, if you don't think for yourself, if you don't quiet your mind, if you don't attach to your higher self and find out some amazing ideas, if you're catatonic with TV, or you're just completely flat as far as making any decisions to take your life to the next level, that can be actually devastating. Make sure that what you need is done in this space. We only have a certain amount of time in our lives. One of the things you can do is keep a list handy. And I'm not saying you can't plan. The only time you can actually do anything is in the now. So in the now, get a list and make a list of all the things you want to do, all the things you need to do, to take for your actual, chores around the house, but also to take your life to the next level, and keep it handy. And it's going to be top of mind now because you've written it down. And when the opportunity presents itself, do something that's on the list. Act, take action, and cross that thing off the list. Take a breath, quiet your mind, stay as much in joy as you can, and take that action. Do whatever that list tells you to do. There's a metaphor that I teach in my class, and it's called the good wolf. There's a Native American elder, and he's teaching these two braves the wisdom of his tribe, and he says, there are two wolves inside of you. There's a good wolf and there's a bad wolf. And one of the braves says, which wolf is going to win? And he says, whichever wolf you feed. We need to always be making choices that feed the good wolf. And the only time you can do that is if you stay in the present moment. And the choices would be: read a good book, listen to beautiful music, only watch optimistic, positive things on your screens, be with happy, optimistic people, eat good, healthy food, exercise, get a lot of fresh air, feed that good wolf. That the only time you can do that is in the now. Instead of being in the now, however, most of us have this monkey mind, and that means it's going 1,000 miles an hour in every single direction, and that's pretty normal in our society, right? There's a lot of stimuli, and we're supposed to be multitasking, and we're supposed to be thinking about all these things, but we're just on this hamster wheel. We're just thinking the same things over and over and over again. We have to learn to quiet our minds and enlarge a space inside of us. Once again, from my book, The Law of Attraction, which is available on Amazon, I want to talk to you about this space. We must become aware of the space in our lives. Most of us don't even know it exists. It's not in geography, it's not in the physical, but it's inside of ourselves. We must learn to pry open this space to let a light shine in, the light of the infinite. But this space scares us. We hurry from one task to another as to not waste time in this space. If we find there's a lag between two chores or appointments or TV shows, we want to fill the void of the space with Facebook gossip, or my favorite, playing solitaire on our little smartphones. We fill a space in conversation with idle babble. Moving, and we fill our lives with unnecessary clutter. We buy things to keep ourselves out of the space. We're moving and cleaning the clutter to keep ourselves out of the space. We're placing value on accumulations to keep ourselves out of the space. We do anything we can to keep ourselves busy. Mindless TV, constant web surfing, endless or uncomfortable chatter, anything from keeping us from entering this space. We are afraid of this space of quiet, inactive, non-thought. We are afraid to sit quietly with ourselves and discover no one is at home. Well, I'll guarantee you there's somebody at home and they're wanting to come out and play. And when we quiet our minds, the universe is going to give us ideas and guide us in ways that we had no idea that was possible. And we're going to encompass this quiet space. The words silent and listen have the same exact letters. It's just in a different order. So maybe that's telling us something. Maybe we need to learn to be silent and listen to what the higher self, the universe, is talking to us about. One of my favorite topics is meditation. I used to not like it because, of course, I wanted to be out doing and bossing everybody around. I learned the power of meditation. There's a Zen proverb that says, meditate for 20 minutes a day unless you don't have time. And then you need to meditate for an hour. You could always take 20 minutes a day to meditate. If you carve out the same time each day and get into a habit, and I'm not saying a discipline, but you will want to do this. 10, 20 minutes will work. Start out slow, go bigger. Just be silent. Be easy on yourself. Just sit there and try to quiet your mind. Don't beat yourself up. I love apps that have music or kind of talk to you a little bit at the first. I don't like it when they talk all the way through, but just be easy on yourself. Start a meditation practice as much as you possibly can. They say praying is talking to God, but meditating is listening. So I want to talk to you about that. Science is big in my life. I have to have some science that kind of backs up a bunch of stuff. And I want to read to you what was in Psychology Today, September 2013. It's by Emma Paula of Stanford University, and it's called 20 Scientific Reasons to Start Meditating Today. And here's some amazing reasons. It decreases pain. It decreases inflammation at the cellular level. It boosts your happiness. It increases positive emotions. It decreases depression, decreases anxiety. I can attest to that one. Decreases stress, boosts your social life. Woohoo! Increases social connection and emotional intelligence. Makes you more compassionate. Makes you feel less lonely. Boosts your self-control. Improves your ability to regulate your emotions. Improves your ability to be introspective. It changes your brain, and for the better. There are neuroscientists, and they can actually map the brain and what happens to it, and it actually increases this frontal lobe, which is where a lot of the creativity comes from. They can see what meditation does on a scientific level, and it really makes your brain for the better. It increases your gray matter, increases the size of your brain. It increases volume of your brain in areas that regulate emotion, positive emotions, and self-control. I think we all need that. And increases the cortical thickness in the brain in areas relating to paying attention, which is what we need to be doing, paying attention to life. It improves your productivity and increases your focus and intention. It improves your ability to multitask. Isn't that amazing, to be quiet? It improves your ability to multitask. It improves your memory. It improves your ability to be creative and think outside the box. So if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. It doesn't hurt. I promise you, it doesn't hurt just to try to sit there and quiet your mind. So there's 3 levels of us, of me. There's our ego. That's our personality. That's what we present to the world. That's our body. And then there is the soul, which is the thing that is watching us. There's another entity that's watching us. When you talk to yourself, who do you think you're talking to? There's an awareness of what we're doing. So there's the ego that's doing, and then there's the soul. There's the awareness of what we're doing, and then there's this higher self. And when you're meditating, they all blend together, and that's when the power starts happening. That's when we attach to that higher self that we were talking to. Turn whatever it is over to your higher self. Thank the higher self in the beginning, in advance, for giving you whatever answer you want or a peace of mind, and put it out to the universe and just let your mind be quiet. And the universe is going to have your back. So our egos, our personalities, that's our programming. We talked about that. We've had that. We are programmed from the time before we're born until we're 6 years old. Those are our paradigms, that's our conditioning. That's what our autopilot is until we learn how to change that, which we do on this show, in my course, in my book. So our ego is like a shell, and we think of shells that protect us, that a shell protects an egg, or a shell protects a seed, and shells do protect us. We all have shells. But when things grow, they grow from the inside out. The chick grows from the inside out and breaks the shell from the inside. The seed grows from the inside, which I just think is amazing. We're going to talk about that and My Hidden Life of Trees. I love that book. The seed breaks the shell from the inside, and our souls break our shell from the inside. And the only way that can happen, that we get a crack in our shell, in our ego, is to meditate and let that portion of ourselves grow. This growth can't occur unless we quiet our minds and let that happen. When we silence our mind, that's when the growth happens, because something comes to and through us. There's this power that's flowing to and through us, and that is what cracks the shell open and allows us to grow as individuals and as spiritual beings also. There is a lot of evidence that very productive people meditate. And when they meditate, they say they go into a trance, and there's something outside of themselves that comes in and gives them this information. And it's called the field of potentiality, the 0 point field. And we'll go into that a lot more, but it's provable by science that there's this invisible energy that's out there that penetrates, permeates, and fills the inner spaces of everything. It's between all of ourselves. It's everywhere. And this is where information lies. The geniuses, Einstein said he would meditate and he would go into a trance and the information would come to him. I just watched an Ancient Aliens show because I love Ancient Aliens. And it said that he thought of the theory of relativity in a matter of minutes, because it just came to him. It came through him too. Tesla, who I absolutely love, he would go into these meditative trances and he would actually see everything, these inventions. He had over like 700 patented inventions, and he would just see the invention and how they worked and taking them apart. Steve Jobs said he would go in, he would meditate, and he literally saw the smartphone in his meditation and saw how it worked. So there's a lot of evidence out there that the people that take their lives to the next level, this meditation stuff really works. When I was in law school, they told us about a phenomenon. Now, they didn't name it this, but it's called simultaneous inventions. But they said that when you do, trademark or copyright work, that if somebody comes to you with something, you need to get it, trademarked or copyrighted or patented immediately, because there's this phenomenon that, all of this, people show up with the same exact instrument and wanted it patented at the same exact time. And they said it's a phenomenon. We don't know why it works, but you need to know that, and you need to get your client's patents in immediately, so you're not, practicing, malpractice. Well, there is a lot of evidence that it's called simultaneous inventions. The same day, Alexander Graham Bell, and I don't remember the other guy, they bring a patent for the telephone to the patent office the same day, and they didn't even know each other. And that is because there's this information out there, and it's in this 0 point field, and when you quiet your mind, you have access to it. And I think it's weird, but I'm going to prove to you that the 0 point field actually exists. We need to understand that we need to surrender. We need to surrender to the present moment, because when we're fighting the present moment, nothing happens. We're like that little kid on the playground, just boxing away at nothing. If you spend your time wanting something else than what is in the present moment, then you've just spent that amount of your life and you've just wasted it. When you appreciate what you have in the present moment, what happens is appreciation is the highest level of frequency we can be on. We talked about that in the past, and we're going to talk about that a lot more. It allows your mind to stay open, and it allows options and opportunities that are in the present moment to show up that you can take advantage of. And when you're bemoaning that you don't like what's going on, you're not open to that. So when you appreciate where you are and don't resist it, and know that where you are is where you are, and you're going to be able to take a step and another step and another step, that's when these opportunities and these serendipities show up. Staying in the now is the most magical thing you can do. And I want to share with you a story from my grandson, because I just think kids are our best teachers in the whole world. And I would go up and I would stay all night with them, and my bedroom's in the basement, and I would listen, when he was little and Weston was just a baby and wasn't even moving. What we would do when I would stay all night, our plan was, I would listen for his little feet upstairs, and as soon as I heard him, I would get up and we would play together, just us, until everybody else got up. And one night, I got really sick during the night, and I was dizzy and throwing up, and so I didn't get up when I heard his little feet, and I'm opening my eyes, and there he is. He's eye level with me, and he's got, Curious George in one hand and his coveted blanket in the other, and he says, "Grandma, let's play." I said, "Oh, Henry, honey, I'm so sick, I can't get out of bed." And so he jumps on the bed. He says, "That's okay, I'll just stay here with you." And he's jumping around, and my stomach is churning. But so he grabs my iPad, and I'm never really quite sure if he likes what he likes best, whether it's me or my iPad. But pretty soon he says, "Grandma, I know what's going to make you feel better." And he leaves, and he comes back, with the cardboard lid of a game, just the lid. And in it, he has two dinosaur pieces. He has a 4 match the card game from, 4 cards from match the card game, and none of them were matching. He had a little plastic credit card from his toy cash register. And then he had a sundry of other items, and he goes, "We're going to play with this." So it just melted my heart. And I want to read to you what I journal almost every day, and I would love to encourage you to journal. So what I do is I take this as a 5x8 index card for those of you that are on the radio. I used to buy journals, pretty journals, bound journals, but I'd never write in them because I thought, I'm going to write something stupid in them, and then it's going to be in this beautiful journal. And I'd never write in it. Or then I try really hard to write something really smart in the journal because I want it, I'm sure someday somebody's going to want my journals. And, I never wrote. So I thought, okay, I need to do something that's only temporary. And I got these 3x5 cards. And every morning, well, not every morning, but a lot of mornings after I meditate, I say, I'm just going to fill the front and the back out. I don't set a time limit, and I write in cursive. And writing in cursive is so important because it engages a creative part of the brain that I think is attached to this higher self. And when you're writing in cursive, what I do is I just try to think of one concept. When I've meditated, usually they've given me one concept that I'm kind of thinking about, and I write about that. And I'm amazed when I get done with the front and back, I don't even know I've written it. It's this insightful stuff that literally came to and through me. And I would encourage you to journal. I think that's a really good way to keep in touch with your higher self and all that stuff. But so I journaled this when I came back. And so I said, the gesture melted my heart. He wanted to be near me to play his made-up game of fighting dinosaurs that needed credit cards for some reason. He brought what he could carry. He used natural resources he found to transport them. He invented things we could do lying down, and he was happy to share. He didn't worry if he brought the right thing, if it was enough, or whatever others would think. He made do with what he had and offered it joyfully. What a lesson that we could all learn. To access a situation, decide how to make it better, use resources at your disposal, use your imagination to implement them, knowing it's enough, and to joyfully share. I am so blessed to have credit card carrying dinosaurs in my family. And I just want to talk to you about John Lennon. He said, life happens when you are busy making other plans. And isn't that the truth? We think we have all these plans and we miss out on the life that's here right now. So I want to try to tie in all of the first 3 concepts that we talked about and how they deal with surrender and quieting our mind and meditating. So the first one was spending time. What do we choose to spend our time on? We never get it back, and it is so precious. And most of the time, 95% of our days, and unless we learn how to access the now, is spent on autopilot. So think about that. What do you spend your time on? The second thing was how much children live in the present, how much joy they find in everything, how everything is so intense. If they don't get that blue donut, their lives are over. Everything is so intense, and they're so aware, and it's so in the now. And then that transitions over to how adults feel, how that we're on autopilot, and if we could learn that we can surrender to the moment, surrender to our higher being, that's when the magic happens. All we have to do is make a choice in the present moment. Because that's the only time we can make a choice, right? That's the only time we can take an action. That's the only time we can think a thought, is in the present moment. Now is not an instant in time. Because when I first started this, I go, okay, well, now it's now. Well, now it's now. Well, now it's now. It's just an instant, and then it's gone. Now, the concept of now, using my air quotation marks, is not an instant in time. It's a state of mind. It's a flow. It's to getting in at the current of the universe. It's becoming aware of this life force that comes to and through us, and when we're quiet, we can listen to it. Our intuition tells us what we need to do with it. It is the one thing that connects us to divinity. We are divinity, but we don't know it because we're not paying attention to the now. We're not quieting our mind. We're not attaching to our higher self that attaches to divinity. Surrender is sweet when you realize you're not losing anything. You're letting go. There's a huge difference. When you make a decision to let go and relax and trust, and you're going to do it in increments, but trust that the universe has your back, it takes your life to a whole nother level. I don't know how many of you have read Jonathan Livingston Seagull, but it's by Richard Bach and it came out in the 70s, I think. And if you've read it, read it again. And if you haven't read it, it's a cute little storybook, and it's a metaphor about the seagull. In this book, there is another story, another metaphor about these fish, and they're born and they live at the bottom of this stream, and they've always been taught to cling to the bottom and to get between the rocks so the current won't take them away. And so they hatch in the little legs, and they're taught, now hang on to these rocks and get in, between the rocks, and we have to stay down here. We have to struggle our whole lives against this current. And so they're born and they struggle and then they die. Well, this one little fish says, well, what happens if we let go? And they, oh, it's horrible. The stream will kill you and take you, and it's the worst thing in the world. And one day the little fish says, well, I'm going to find out. And he just lets go. And the stream takes him and gently takes him down to a most amazing future and to see things he would never have thought of seeing. Well, that's what we do all day long. We're clinging to the bottom of the stream because we've been told, don't let go because it's not safe. You can let go a little bit, and it's letting go on the inside. It's letting go of resisting the now. It's letting go of you thinking you're in control, and just let go and trust that the universe is going to take you to the next level. Here's some quotes from Living in the Now. Albert Einstein says, we cannot solve problems with the same thinking that we use to create them. And if we don't quiet our minds and get some information from a higher self, all we're doing is thinking the same thoughts and trying to solve them with the same thoughts. We need a different perspective. We need to have a different way to look at them to create solutions. And that's what staying in the now, quieting your mind, meditating, and getting in touch with that higher self does. And my quote is, and in our own lives, when we silence our mind and listen, divinity will speak to us. And one of my favorite sages of all times is Glinda the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz. And I'm from Kansas, so I always get made fun of because of that. You had the answers all along, my dear, and you do. Everything that you need is inside of you. And the way to get those out is to quiet your mind. Well, we are at the end of the time that we have right now, but I do want to thank you for joining me today. I want to tell you how excited I am that next week I get to have Pam Grout on my station. I get to interview her on my program. She is a New York Times bestselling author of E Squared, as well as many, many other books. I love her voice. I love her books. I love her personality, and I'm honored that she's going to be with us next week. So I hope you turn in to that next week. And until then, I want to leave you with what Ram Dass says. We are all just walking each other home. So until next time, thank you for joining me and have a great week.
Thank you for joining Paula Kidd Casey on Lawyer of Attraction radio show. For more information about Paula programs and her book, please visit www.lawyerofattraction.com. Until next week, may you experience the magic of manifesting genuine abundance.